order. Move on to the adoption of the agenda. There is one item I would like to have added to the agenda. It is Teacher Appreciation Week, and I would like to add that, I think, under 2. So, okay, does anyone else have any changes or amendments to the agenda? We will accept the agenda as amended. Move on to item number 1, science curriculum.
Okay, so it's a 2-part thing. In your packet, you'll see that you have in your hands the entire independent adoption. Everything that you need about that is all there. It's not something we have to vote on because we already voted on it, but I was supposed to turn it into you after we had met with the teachers and gotten all the paperwork together. So that is everything that you need about the independent science adoption at the elementary school. So, and that's how we, it's in an email because she said this is what's required. So I included that so you guys would know that was from Jen. So, yeah.
Okay, is there any bullet point that we should particularly look at?
Overwhelmingly, when we had, and we didn't have a lot of parents show up, but the parents and the people involved were very pro they came and they watched the teachers teach the lessons out of the curriculum, and the feedback was all great. And nobody came because they were not happy that we were adopting that curriculum. They basically came, it was kind of funny, I was like, I'm surprised you came, because they were like, well, did you hear we're talking about Mr. Science? And they're like, we love it, our kids love it. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you're here to watch it. I don't know, it seemed funny that they were really pro the curriculum. So anyway, and I included all of those in the back, like the forms that they filled out. And we offered the curriculum, we had one teacher teaching it in Spanish, and several of us went to attend that one because we didn't actually have any parents that came to attend that one. But I have to say, I don't know any Spanish, and I still learned a lot during the lesson. I was really impressed by how it was scaffolded, and the words were presented up on the screen, and every piece of it was very immersively in Spanish. So you could teach it in the dual language classroom in Spanish or in the English only classroom. And all the worksheets were really well done, just as if you were doing it in English. There wasn't any translation that she had to do or anything. It was all just there and ready to go. So that was impressive.
That's impressive.
And I hadn't seen that side of it, so it was kind of fun to go and experience that. So also we got an IMET filled out, which IMET is the state scoring guide that they usually do for regular publishers, but we had a school district that did the IMET on it. Because they're also adopting it as an independent adoption. We're a bigger district, so they did the full IMET on it, and so that's included in there as well. So, and it was past them, and so they were also going to adopt it as well. So, the other piece about the science adoption is that I had told you that we were adopting style at the middle school, because we were. Based on further reflection by the middle school teachers, they felt like it's mostly digital, and after reflection and after teaching it, because they piloted it for an extensive period of time, they found that when they reflected back on their teaching, they hadn't connected with their students this year by doing this pilot as much as they have in the past. And they felt like it was because it was such a digital platform, and they felt like it didn't really reflect their values of how science should be hands-on. And so it took them piloting it a while, I think, to really realize, wait, this isn't as hands-on. We feel like a lot of curriculums are computer-facing. We want to do something different. So they then got a pilot for lab aids, and it's fairly close to the same price as what we were going to pay for style. And so they piloted lab aids at post us adopting style. And they would like to change to style, or change to lab aids, I mean. So they would like to change their curriculum to that one. So I don't know, so So we need to unadopt the one we adopted and then adopt the new one. And they just feel like the lab aids reflects better their values of wanting it to be hands-on and not just computer-based.
So is it a book and like?
It is, it's actually still not just like a textbook, but it is a very hands-on curriculum where they feel like they can still do what they know to be how they want to teach their science class. Like they're still doing their professional job of being able to structure the class, but this gives them the supplements and the lab experiences that they want to give to the students. So, and for pretty much the same price, it's a lot more hands-on.
Do we have more questions? Kathleen?
Mr. Cleaver, you're a science man, you like it?
I think I like it better for our kids in terms of reading level. I like it better in terms of our kids with engagement. One thing I really enjoy about it is the idea that you can use that hands-on experience or that lab type experience as the anchor for the unit. Does that make sense? Of one or two activities that lets them build upon. They're using their science standards, obviously, to teach that unit, right? And put together the lessons that they need to do. And it's done. It's more teacher-driven in my brain, right, than computer-driven. Which I think in terms of teacher engagement and then also teacher understanding of the content, which I think right now we have a group of teachers that are capable of doing that on their own. So that makes sense. In fact, I'd prefer them to scaffold it for our kids, especially around like vocabulary. Does that make sense? And reading level. Honestly. So, I support the choice.
Trusting you guys and the teachers.
I like the fact that it's hands-on and not just computer-driven.
The one thing I will say, it wasn't an easy choice coming back and having them to stop and go, this doesn't seem right. You know, it doesn't seem like a right fit. And for them to be wanting to take the time to do that, I think that says that in their mind they think this is a better choice. So it's not always an easy process to come back and say, by the way, you're wrong. So.
And I think it's important, I mean, this is a seven-year adoption, and the process they went through, and they really, I mean, piloting, reflecting, and doing all those really good things we've known in 7 years, and so support their decision to kind of pivot after they did their due diligence on it, and they said, this is what's best for kids, and so that's where we're bringing it. What are we doing? But no, I absolutely, I support their process, and neither of any of the ones that are teaching it. And they said this is what's best for kids, and so that's why we brought it tonight and support that.
Sorry, what's the name of the new program?
Lab aids.
Oh, Lab Aids. Okay, I was thinking they were pivoting to a lab aid driven.
Right, no.
curriculum. Okay, it is literally
It
lab
literally
aids.
is, yes.
Okay.
A with an E or just a D?
It's just with a D, yeah, AIDS. Lab aids.
So, any other questions on that? So this is when we need to go back and rescind a previous adoption and adopt this one. Do I hear, and this is just for the middle school?
This is just for middle school, everything else stays.
If there are no questions, do I hear a motion on rescinding the previous decision we had for, what was the name of that? Style. And adopting Lab Aid as our science curriculum for middle school?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? It's been moved by Dustin and seconded by Susan to rescind our previous adoption of Style and adopt now Lab Aid as the science curriculum for the middle school. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you heard
Yes. And I'm really glad that they decided to do this change now instead of a year from now.
Absolutely, I know. I was like, well, I'm glad we thought this out. I know.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 2, the advisory period. Gentlemen?
Alrighty, okay, I can start. Did you guys get the
Yeah.
current handout? Okay. So, we're looking at some changes and expectations from the state. We're needing to have some time during our school day to do social emotional curriculum. And currently, there really isn't a time, a consistent time each week we can do that. We're also still looking at data and saying, okay, wait a minute, how can we do things better? Because although we're getting good graduation outcomes, we still have 12% of our seniors taking a full-day schedule and only 33% of our juniors taking a full-day schedule. It's like, how can we help engage our students and preparing them not only for that graduation mark, but beyond their post-high school plans. And along with that, we're looking at instruction time, and they've got the little print that says, when calculating instruction time, 80% of your school should be on a full schedule. I'm thinking that's going to be a problem. I don't know why it hasn't been yet. And then we look at our daily, classes, and they're getting bombarded with all of this other stuff. And it's good things, but it takes up time. Assemblies, PEP assembly, coordination, state testing. The list is pretty extensive. We got speakers, class meetings. And so we're trying to figure out how do we put all that together and have a schedule that accomplishes increased student engagement, social emotional learning, having kids on a full day schedule, all of those pieces. And so we're bringing to you a proposal for an advisory, an 8th period advisory. If you look at the Bell schedule, it's the same as the current Bell schedule. And the period 8 would be advisory, with the idea that that is the class that is most commonly missed due to athletics. And that if we can have that for everything from social emotional learning to grade check homework day to college career readiness, character education, all of those pieces, that we can come out further ahead. In the proposal, in order to sell this to students, I've got to make it meaningful and I've got to make it required. Luke explained this well today. We've got our high-end students that want to do all the dual credit. They want to take everything. And then you got your low-end kids where you have all the supports. They're taken, they're on an IEP, so they get academic support, they get 2 English classes, they get ELL, and they get a full schedule. But you got this middle piece that right now are trying, they do just the minimum. And they only want 24 credits because that's what you need for graduation. And it's like, okay, so how do we create more meaning? And of course, some of that is through helping them find their aptitude, their passion, helping them focus on their post-high school goal, and making sure everything's aligned. But the other part of that is, if I really want them to attend advisory, I'm going to have to require it as credit. And so the proposal is having 8th period advisory, have it required each year, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and have it worth 1 credit. And then instead of 24 credits, we require 28 for graduation. That still gives you a cushion of 4 credits for credit recovery or religious release. But it does tighten the system up. And then by doing that, all of those activities that I named before, that gets put into the advisory. So now I am increasing the amount of curriculum that can be covered. And the instructional time in it. But that's what we're bringing to you. That's kind of an overview.
Yeah, I think the one thing we didn't hit is we obviously implemented something similar to this with the middle school, and there's been some growing, right? But I think as an great schedule for kids. I think specifically in terms of kids that are participating in things, it's definitely been great. I think the other idea that it now gives kids access to teachers during the school day to finish any type of homework or make up work that they need to. It's also giving them a spot, especially at the middle school level, for them to do the additional enrichment type activities that we've assigned, whether it be AR reading or whether it be math or whether it be vocab.com. So it's giving them a place to do that, and it's giving us a place that, like, every time we have an assembly or not every time, there's been a couple during the day, but most of the time, all our time is missed during the school day is taken out of that chunk of time. So it's maximized our instructional minutes in the other periods. It's where we do a lot of our PBS reward type stuff that I think would obviously happen at the high school. And really, the conversation is how do we get a schedule that fits both buildings? Because I think that's important. I think the needs of the high school and the needs of the middle school have to be balanced pretty well because of sharing of facilities and of staff. So I'll be honest, as the middle school principal, I wasn't willing to give up that time. I thought it was necessary for our kids. We do lots of things for the benefit of our high school kids, and I do think this is definitely going to 100% benefit them, but I also think it maintains the integrity of what it's giving our middle school kids also, and their access to teachers. When we talk about OTI, but the reality of the world is not all our staff are available during that time. Not all kids are available to stay at those times based upon rides. This is access to a teacher during the school day. Honestly, one of the things I've thought about is working at the high school is the number of kids are currently receiving an F in a class, right? And so it's someone that's specifically looking at that kid every week to see if they're on track to get their work done. Like, by the way, you should be working on your math today because you have 4 missing assignments when they look at their student view, right? Someone to help facilitate that with them rather than it being an autopsy at the end of the 9 weeks or every 4.5 weeks when they pull grades. So that's one thing that I like about it. It does change, obviously, the graduation requirements, but I do think it's important to do that because if we're going to make it meaningful, it needs to be, the kids need to be rewarded accordingly too, right? There needs to be the ability to have an elective credit for that rather than no credit. And for example, if you look at that right currently in our current system, if you TA versus if you have a study hall, the two things are awarded different credit. Right? And so if we add the other educational components to that, whether it be sexual harassment trainings, right, whether it be social emotional learning, we have every kid with a safe schools module access now, so there's tons of different trainings we can do with the kids in terms of that we haven't been doing other places. So I think there's lots of needs for it, and all it would really do is change the number of periods, right? In terms of access during the day, kids would have 7 classes where they could choose what they want versus 8. And 1 week they take what would happen. Yes.
You both have mentioned that it'd be at the end of the day. What about the kids that go to school half days? They'd have to be required to come back for 8th period?
This is exactly what he's referring to. Like,
Why don't they get them on full days?
by state law, the only students that qualify for that are seniors, and that's if they're on track to graduate. And then within that realm, I would believe that we would look for them to have a qualifying work experience or a career pathway of some type, right? So an example would be a kid that if I'm going to go, say, work on my associate's degree and we're going to leave in the afternoon and go to Treasure Valley, I think that's definitely something we sign off on, right? If a kid can show that they've got a legitimate job they're going to, right? That would be something we'd sign off on. But we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on faculty and also hundreds of thousands of dollars on facilities to offer kids educational opportunities during this time frame of their life, right? To prepare them for college or career. And so I don't think there's a better access to education unless they can show some work experience that replicates those skills.
So reason to not be in school, I
Correct.
guess, in a way.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
For example, an internship that is aligned with their post-high school goal and is, giving value to their experience, and that could be considered as a reason not to be there in the afternoon for a senior. But even better, let's have the internship in the morning, and so then they still get all of the benefits.
And then they're a place to participate in other extracurricular activities in the afternoon, right? And so what we're really trying to do is keep kids engaged with our school system, right? And for the kids that don't go on to post-secondary education anytime, this is one of the major learning opportunities as a young person, right? In terms of gathering their educational basis for their adult life, right? And so,
The other piece of it, and Luke mentioned it briefly, having that one key teacher, we know that like in the resiliency model, that key adult advocate is a big deal. And so they have that one advisory teacher who is a mentor and a coach, is helping track grades all the way through the school year. And, you know, there's a couple different models that you could do. You could have those teachers set up so that they were an expert at that grade level, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Or you could loop it, so they're an expert on the kids, and they follow the kids all the way through. Both are effective models, but either way, having a key adult advocate that's checking grades with students every single week, and refocusing them, you know, taking the time to listen, say what's going on. Having that system in place for personalization. As a school of 350 students, we have the ability to be very, very, very personalized. We still have students that are not building that connection. So the idea would be getting connected with the right teacher, at least someone that's going to guide their progress through high school, and still help them look past high school for that purpose.
I have a couple of questions. Isn't their lunch, isn't that a lot later than usual?
that's when it's been when we changed to the 4-day week, right, when it pushed it back.
And how many students per teacher ballpark? I mean, it has to be small enough that, if I had
So-
30 kids, it'd be hard to check everybody's schedule.
When I looked at the maximum personalization, I thought, okay, we're gonna have a whole staff who's gonna have advisory, no prep periods, and I got it down to 15. And then there's the reality.
Points on that, too.
And then there's the reality. Then we talked, and this side note, you know, it's like, okay, I'd had these ideas, Luke had these ideas. You get us in the same room with Tal and Andrea, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, this is power. So I'm super, super looking forward to, you know, to continuing that as the Tilburg's principal. Where's I going with that? Oh, so when we look at that, if I have everybody 8th period, nobody's on prep, we do everyone, I can get it down to 15, and it can be very, very personalized. However, it doesn't always work because I have that staff member who coaches 2 or 3 sports. He's always going to be gone 8th period. So it makes more logical sense that they have the prep 8th period. Or I have the subject area where I don't have the FTE to cover all of the required classes. And so by giving them the 8th period prep, then they're still teaching 7 classes and we're good. And so there's going to be a few of those. But realistically, the focus would be 18-20, so that it's smaller and more personalized. Is that about what you
Yeah, I think that's what we're doing really about the middle school right now. And then the other thing is, depending upon how they configure it, one of the things we found is, hey, this kid really is struggling in English language arts with this English language arts teacher, so we changed that kid's schedule to be with the English language arts teacher that they have during the day. Right? It makes perfect sense. Or the math teacher that they have during the day. So that teacher, even though they're their advisory teacher, they also are their teacher during the day in a subject area that they're not necessarily being successful in, so that person has one more period to work with them. So it's kind of the hopes we have, some of that. Tailor them to the area that they need. But I don't think it's going to be necessarily with the FTE possible to have everybody on. The other side of the coin is it also then creates problems for earlier in the day, like if people are on a couple period release, we don't have an adult to cover that class, right? To fill in as the substitute that day. And we're paying for a half-day substitute rather than paying per period for 1 or 2 people. So you at least got to have 2 or 3 on prep to be able to fill that out. So the answer would be not everybody will be on prep that period. This, logistically, it just doesn't work to meet all our needs. But I think the class size would still be approximately under 12.
There's details that need to be worked out as we fine-tune the schedule, but wanted to have the conversation and get feedback. wanted to be moving forward together instead of we're going one direction and the board's not understanding or wanting a different direction. We wanted to make sure we're moving forward together. Wanted to get input.
Got 2 questions. Have you got any feedback from teachers on their bringing on this additional advisory role?
I anticipated a lot of pushback, and I have not received that. The most vocal teacher, when they saw what it could do for the personalization, it just clicked. They said, yeah, we gotta have that. I want to have that key group that I can move forward, and I want my colleagues, do the same. We can't have people falling through the cracks, and we just go out 350, and we have, we can put a system in place so it is more personalized.
And then
Have you had,
No, but maybe the fact that people were waiting to see if it actually matriculates into something, right? Does that make
Sure.
sense?
And the
I mean,
other part-
Discussion phase versus now I have to live in this world are sometimes 2 different things, right?
I think there's a lot of credibility where we share 10 staff members, and so that those 10 staff members are living the reality, they're living the schedule at the middle school. So I think that gave us a lot of credibility.
Okay. The other question, the social emotional curriculum. Are we gonna get to a point where the state mandates so much social emotional curriculum that it eats up all of this advisory curriculum? Where that curriculum has to be taught day in and day out, and we lose this ability for kids to have the personalized measure because the state is trying to force something else.
My understanding, and it could evolve to that. My understanding, the current curriculum we're looking at, Character Strong, okay, I want to make sure I use the right term. The Character Strong, it's designed to be once a week lesson. And then, of course, teachers ideally are taking that information and through their interactions throughout the day are also building on it, showing applications to it. And so when we, on the back, we look at 1 day a week for purely the social emotion learning. And the counselor would be in charge of developing those lessons, making copies, having the lesson plan, making it easy for our teachers to implement. And so it's not an additional class for them to prepare for. But of course, the teachers have to be on board and actually teach the lesson and do justice to it. But the counselor would lead that, and then student success coordinator would implement the college career, post-high school planning, forecasting, coordinate all of those pieces. That Thursday, I actually, and there's details to be worked out, but we have grade check homework day on Monday and kind of a tutorial, mandatory OTI on Friday. Sorry, Thursday, that's so weird. PBIS, where we reward people who are on track, we even thoughts occasionally, you check grades, we check attendance. They've been in every class that week, they're passing all their classes, and they get that time off. For the ones that need the extra help, then stay and get the support. Currently our schedule, we're trying to do OTI, and we're trying to, doing it 3 days a week. We have IEP meetings every day after school. We have coaches that are coaching, and it's good that they're involved. But it's watered down to the point where we need to try something different. But we're not truly meeting the needs of our students. The OTI, opportunity to improve. Other districts call it teacher access, but yeah, we tried to do justice to it. We feel it's important, but the truth is, our teachers need to be at IEP meetings. The student's not able to access the teacher, and after a while, they stop trying. So we want to build that into that advisory time.
I have 2 questions. So it's saying here in this model that we're required to have a full schedule, so are we not going to do home release anymore?
Like for what pieces of it?
for like, when you're saying the full schedule, we're just not gonna allow students to have home release at all
Like
anymore?
home release for a job, a career, or,
Well, I thought there was like home release and then there's work release, which are two different release periods currently.
it would only probably potentially be eligible for a senior,
Okay,
right, that's on track to graduate.
okay, perfect, that's what I was
No one
curious.
else would probably be eligible for it, and I guess the preference would be that they find an additional class to take.
And then,
And that's hard for me, because currently, parents have to sign off, they choose it, they're requesting it, they're supporting that. And, you know, in many cases, they're saying, you know, my student they're doing through sports, they're doing all this dual credits, they need some downtime, I'll sign off. Other times, they just get pressure that, you know, no, there's nothing for me to do at school, mom, dad, sign this. But, man, that's what's created this system where only 12% of our seniors are taking the full schedule. And I really get concerned about those juniors. And
So
so,
won't be eligible for juniors, not allowable by law.
right, and when I went to last year, I did parent meetings. We were looking at going to 7th period day, and I did several, actually 2, 3 parent meetings. In the end, they said that they would support, they weren't thrilled, but they would support a 7th period day. And then with everything that was going on, the timing wasn't right. But they argued that their students were involved in a lot of personal growth opportunities that they don't have without that open period. And I'm sorry, I'm biased, baloney. Where they need to be is in school. In school is where they're gonna have that keyhole advocate, it's got the positive peers, the club of sports, the purpose, all of the things, you know, the CT class, all of the things that we know help students succeed. And I think it's probably pretty rare that they're involved in something that's more important than being in school. There are some. We have students who have done a veterinary internship and totally aligned with their you know, their plan, their post-high school plan. And yeah, that's something we can sign off on. But don't want them home playing video games and supervised doing whatever.
and then my other question was about the college and career readiness on Wednesdays. Is that going to be instead of career transitions, or is that in addition to?
Addition to.
Okay.
And that, yes.
This is just generally a schedule, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gotta be this, odds are like, hey, Wednesday, by the way, is the pep assembly for the homecoming coordination, right? So, it'll change week to week, but generally speaking, we'll try to have a schedule that may be that that's not something we need every week. It might be the freshman are Tuesday because he's able to get in with freshmen on Tuesday, and juniors on Wednesday this week, and seniors on Thursday, right? If we're working on, for example, transcript, right, you're not gonna be able to get them all at the same time. Or if you're doing forecasting, right, you're not gonna forecast them all at the same time. Right?
So, and I think what this is a mindful approach to students for success. And that's what it is. It's not like, well, hopefully, you know, I mean, that's what we struggle. Like our climate survey, like those things, like, when can we get in? This is a mindful approach, ensuring that these pieces are taken. And we have the social emotional curriculum required. I wish I could say, Dustin, is that the state isn't requiring this every day, but you know how the state is, it goes with politics. But no matter what, even if they decide that, it's still a couple years out. We look at the personal finance, those things, right? And so, but that's what this is, putting kind of value back in our high school. And Mr. Cleaver and I have been talking about next year and those goals, and talking, we want kids that have a full schedule because this is the best place to prepare them for next year. And there's a lot of opportunities that kids aren't taking that we want them to, like even like our construction club, like those things anyway. So this accomplished a lot of those goals that as the board is saying, this is what we want our kids to come out of, and this is what does that. And my big fear going into it, right, is, oh, this is a hangout period. Right, and I think that kind of showing that, no, it's going to be planned out roughly in 9 through 12. They're going to have, everybody's doing, you know, this week, we're getting this lesson and that, and so it is not that. This is gonna be extremely valuable for our teachers, our students, and our community. And so, that's why we're proposing.
It's a big investment of time for it to be a hangout period, right? Let's be honest, like it's been investment of resources for it to do that. And so I think that's not our intention in any way, shape, or form. Is it gonna take a couple years to get it to where it's working the way we want it to work? I guarantee 100%, like it'll change and evolve over time, just like the middle school ones continue to do, right? But I think there's lots of things that we're not providing for kids that can be provided in this time period, because there's just not any other space in other periods to do it. And we continue to ask the same teachers many times to give. Like for example, if you're a social studies teacher, you lose a lot of instructional minutes because that's a class that this grade level has, or you're an English teacher, you're missing it because you have all the kids, so we go in and do work with that grade level in those classes during the day. It's not fair that they're always giving up that instructional time. So I hope it's something that we can utilize well. Our intention is not to utilize it well, right? Our intention is to figure out how to make it as productive as it had. When we use the word advisory, let's be honest, advisory is kind of a dirty word around here a little bit, right? To some people. But I think by virtue of what it looked like at the middle school this last year, I think it's different, right? People have understood the value of it. And if it's anything, it's just a place for kids to be able to connect with their staff member and also to get their additional work done with support from an adult. Right?
So if this is going to be eating up 4 credits, how does that affect the kids who are doing like dual enrollment for college credit? Is that going to eat into their ability to do that? I don't understand that program.
Well, what it's going to do is going to take away one period option of that, but the reality of the world is, if you look at our current schedules, right, if only 13% of kids are using that, they've got the space in there to lose one. Does that make sense?
Oh, but do those 13% have the space to lose that?
Yeah,
Because those are
it's a
kind
good
of our
question.
overachieving kids, right?
Yep.
So are we punishing them by implementing something like this?
I don't think that's the case with anything. Anytime you implement something that, if our kids make choices to take a class more than one time, right, it eats into their schedule somehow, right? So if they take band for 4 years, right, you take FFA for 4 years, right? Just depends what choices we make in the world, right? Potentially it could. It could take away an option for kids, right, because you have a wellness period. Right? But some of them are already structured where they've got that class, and then they also have like a study hall, or they have TA, or they have, so a lot of the time, I use for example, my child is an example, both of mine, they've all, both took pretty rigorous schedules. My student had a study hall all the way through, right, just for the standpoint that when we went home, we wanted to be done with school for the day. Does that make sense? We wanted to know a place to do that, so made some choices and lost out on some options, but chose that. This is gonna, he won't, in his scenario, he wouldn't have lost anything. Does that make sense? This would just take the place of the one that he had. And a lot of our high achieving, I mean, obviously I haven't been doing schedules at high school, but I think in my brain, a lot of the high achieving kids already have that built in somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
So they know they need the time to do it. If you're in Ken Blanchard's math class, you're gonna need 45 minutes at least to do your math homework. Not to be mean, if you're in calculus, you can be doing math somewhere, right?
I wouldn't know that one.
So you know what I'm saying? So a lot of these kids have built it in, especially, so our kids that are involved in lots of things have already built this in a lot of times, right? It may impact what period they want it, what period they prefer it, right? But I think they're gonna be able to fit it in during their day based upon their current schedule. And they may have to make a choice, and there's things, for example, we can look to change our programming. So for example, 0 period weights, we currently don't offer it, but it might be a spot where it fits in with people. Maybe its potential is that if you have bi-release, it potentially it starts getting offered that time. Does that make sense? So there's different avenues to pursue, right? Just like with a 4-period day or 4-day week, right? We'll figure out how to adapt to it to fit with what you need. But I think the things we're trying to build into this at least have potential to benefit a large number of kids.
Yeah, 12% is about 9. I stopped with the math, do that to refresh my memory. So yeah, about 9 students are taking, seniors are taking a full class. Some of those, that class is tutorial, which they would have built into the advisory.
So 9 out of 100. Still 10%, right?
Yeah.
80.
Current
88.
seniors are 77.
I love
Still
these
important.
works in progress, I mean, because that's what this is, it's
Correct.
a work in progress. But I will ask you, because everyone always asks, how are you going to measure what you're doing? I mean, do you have an idea?
Yeah, I think absolutely. You look at the number of Ds and Fs currently, right? I think that's a really great measure, right? I think obviously your school climate survey, I think some of the state mandated stuff that we're not necessarily getting through in terms of college career pathways. Maybe we'll show that, the number of kids that apply for college scholarships. I mean, the number of kids that fill out a FAFSA form, right?
Referrals would be another one.
Referral, I mean, there's lots of different ways, especially around the avenues that we're gonna pursue, like in terms of pathways. I think a lot of the pathways works is gonna be done in here. I think that's important. I would say, for example, if you're looking at CTE program enrollment, I think that would be one of our goals, explaining those pathways to them. Utilization of U Science, right? Looking at U Science data, like, for example, when we do U Science right now, we just give the exam, right? And look at our aptitudes. We don't spend a lot of time talking about them, what they mean, right? How do they use that program further to research college enrollment, program enrollment? So I think there's lots of things that we've just scratched the surface on, does that make sense? That we could definitely continue to develop. So I think those are the measurements, right? Some really quick ones that are easy in my brain.
Okay. Sounds great. Pick a few major ones that you can give us a report back on, because, I mean, I think that will be important in selling it not to the kids, but selling it to the parents, when they say, you know, my child is losing an opportunity to have this particular thing.
Yeah. For sure. I think it's a trade-off, it's like a trade-off for anything, right? So you gotta decide if the trade-off's worth it. I really do think in terms of what it's gonna do to other classes. I think one of the commitments has to be how many times do we not interrupt another class to do something, right? I think coordination, right? Like those public events, or whether it be testing of some type, or class meetings, or how many times something gets interrupted, right, in a school day, and to prevent that, and how many of our kids miss a core class, and or what does 8th period scheduling look like right now, right, for kids? Because I think at our building, we always try to make 8th period elective classes rather than core classes, right, simply because we didn't want a kid missing a math class or an English language arts class for athletics, or, you know, so, I don't know, I think those are the easy ones to look at, honestly. I think D's and F's will be really quick, missing assignments will be quick, right, to look at. I think those are all valid stuff, right, if we're giving kids time with another adult. I think the idea of how long it takes a kid to recover from missing school, and I think those are important things, like how many kids are being
They're
hired.
very important.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. So,
I'm actually kind of excited to see how you're doing this, because I think it will make a difference.
I think
As
it
I
will
said, I'm kind of big on measurements.
yeah,
Yeah, and, you know, graduation rate, I mean, in my mind, that has to stay the same or improve. I'm proud of 96, but that's,
correct.
yeah, if that's my son or your daughter that didn't graduate, that's not good enough.
And I like the idea of a child having the same person for 4 years, they can really build a
Yeah.
good relationship.
And, you know, and we've talked about both, and I don't know if you've really made a decision.
I think it's really more like talking to the staff and the kids, I think. I think we'll do it the first year, right? And then partway through the year, I think that's one of those measures, right? You ask, would you want to be with this person, right, for 4 years, or would you want someone else? And I think that's really important for student and staff input, right? I think that would be the process. I do see the value in grade level, to be honest, from the idea of standpoint of homework, right? The idea that we've got a group of teachers that are working with a grade level. To say, I know for the middle school, it works pretty well because we have 6th grade teachers, and some of them are 6th and 7th, right? And we got 7th grade teachers, and some are 7th, right? That overlap. But for the majority, you can say, okay, that's my 6th grade science teacher, that's my 7th grade science teacher, that's my 8th grade science teacher, right? And so they then know a group of kids, right, that group of 4 teachers works really well together, to know that, hey, by the way, you're gonna get little Joey today, little Joey owes me a science assignment, right? Can you get little Joey to send my science assignment now? You don't even have to think about where little Joey's at, because they know he's over with the other 7th grade teacher on the team. So that works out pretty well. So I think those are things to consider. The high school's gonna have a very similar deal. If you're a freshman, right, you're gonna have physical science, you're gonna have biology, right? You're gonna have your health class. You're gonna be in algebra 1, right? So,
Yeah.
so you got a pretty good pathway, really, right, in terms of figuring out, hey, I'm missing algebra 1 assignment from this kid, I know I can call. So I think it's definitely something to discuss. I don't think it's a decision that's made. I think we look at how many kids it benefits and the reasons for it.
And I like the idea of some flexibility that maybe for some students, if they're struggling in a topic,
Correct.
maybe that should be there. Even if they have a teacher they really like, and they've been with for a couple of years, they get to math and they're struggling with math, maybe this 8th period teacher should be a math teacher. My math teacher lived right next door to me, and the only reason I got through her class was because she let me come over after school and she tutored me to her kitchen table. You know, so this could kind of take place at that.
And it'll also look at what's it look like? Do we allow kids to go between groups? Does that make sense on certain days, right? The reality of the world, we don't want kids just wandering around the school, right? So trust me, in some regards, we're creating a logistical nightmare in some regards, right? And so we know that there's things that we're gonna have to manage and figure out. And so I think even with those risks in terms of workload for the adults in the building, I think the benefit's still there. That's why
But Luke has done this at middle school and it's worked, so he's worked out a lot of those logistics already.
yeah, it really comes down to your staff though. I mean, it comes down to their buying and willingness to work together, right? So for the benefits of kids.
Sounds terrific.
So there's, so
Open.
in my brain, so there's the day-to-day operations piece, figuring this out, what it looks like, and we want to make sure that we get your input and your input. There's also a policy that governs there. As we look at the graduation requirement is a board policy that would have to be changed. If we were to increase from 24 to 28 credits for graduation, then our graduation policy would have to be revised. And of course, that would have to be phased in. So for next year, it would be 25, with the meaning that they would have 1 additional credit, which is the advisory class. And then each year step up until next year's freshman would be 28. And so, yeah, there is the piece that is totally in the board control as far as that policy. And we would like to have the graduation requirements and the credits adjusted to give meaning to that advisory class.
And one of the things that people are uncomfortable with that in my brain, right, it's a step-up process, right? And so, for example, you look at like this year's seniors, right, it would be 25, right? And if you just said, okay, here's an example, it's gonna be 25 for everyone at this point, correct? So everybody's gonna get a credit next year, it's gonna be 25, right? So everybody that's currently enrolled would be at 25, right? And so if we decide to scrap this next year, right, for those group of 4 classes, the graduation requirement was 25. Make it simple, right? So we're not married saying it's 28 right now. Does that make sense? And so obviously we'd have to come back each additional year, right? If we decide that this is something, so we can revisit that. And so I think that makes it, some people, you know, leery if we're already adding 4 extra years to it. Obviously, Superintendent Hawkins and I haven't talked about that, but it was a thought that I had the other day, right? That if people are really, really worried about this being successful, right? It's a large investment of time. You know, it's 1/8 of a kid's day that we're investing in this.
So commit to like 1 year and track the data, the outcomes that Pat's talking about.
It would just change everybody's graduation to 25 for 1 year because that 8 year of advisory. Does that make sense? It's a required class. I don't know how anybody feels with that, but I think it's an easy solution, right?
And I think that's the action the board would be looking at is changing policy on the credit requirements and writing that in there that says it's kind of a step up. And I do have a question that we would work like, what if a student didn't pass it 1 year? Would they make that up, right? I mean, those are those things, but I think that we
Better be careful with
propose,
that.
yeah, we propose a policy change on that that gives you guys those words that Luke was talking about, and that's the action you're supposed to be taking out. So,
Because the credit recovery is going to be important. We talked about it, and it might be that the critical components of that class that are beyond like the tutorial part of it, right? So the idea, like, did you complete your transcript review? Did you create your 4-year plan, right? Did you create? So I think there's a process we can go back and say, did you take your youth science exam? Did you take your ASVAB test as a sophomore? So I think there's critical components that we could identify for each grade level that you could go back and get that credit by proficiency. Does that make sense? And go back that I did create my 4-year plan. I failed to do it as a sophomore, right? To update my 4-year plan, but I updated it as a sophomore and a junior, right? So I think there'll be a process for them to go out. Did you complete, you missed the training on sexual harassment, right? So did you go back and complete the following modules in safe schools? So I think there's, right? Or if you were to complete the social emotional learning, right? And you didn't, you could go back and do that. And I think we do it really similar like what we do currently in our ingenuity classes, right? That we can go through things. So not to interrupt you on that, but I've been thinking about that since you brought that up last week. So.
That reminds me, we talked about having a course outline for all the courses, so there's consistency with the expectations and grading and components and, yeah, just so it's universal across teachers. Yeah. Because it's Ryan's idea, I really liked it.
So what would be the timeline that we'd have to bring the additional credit for graduation?
So what I would like, I mean, this is my kind of timeline, I'd like to have something for next week as a board session, that's a read-only policy on it. And then so kind of a first review on that portion of it
What you'd like the first reading.
is next week, start next week and then June, because obviously we have work to do to get it in. As you can see, there's a lot of these working pieces we're doing, and then in June, it would be kind of second reading we can adopt at that point. Give us some really good time for feedback.
Okay, so when we can get that all coordinated, that policy.
You guys sound good to you?
Yeah.
Or June, that should give us enough time to.
Because really the only thing that'll change is the 25, it'll become 25 or whatever, 26, 27, 28, goes up, if it staggers up. Does that make sense with one of that being advisory?
Yeah.
So really for next year, everybody would have a accredited advisor required for graduation, depending upon their graduation year.
And it could be implemented without a change in graduation requirements, just with attendance, we hammer that, I guess, skip advisory.
Correct.
Yeah, there's no suspension. Generally, it works better with the carrot and the stick and the stick. So,
And I think it also emphasizes the need for it to be meaningful, right? And the activities to be meaningful. Like even from a staff standpoint, we're developing meaningful activities that we're providing for kids, right? Because we are awarding credit. And generally speaking, if we're getting paid for something, both groups tend to do better, right?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Sounds good, thanks for doing that.
thank you for listening.
Thanks.
I will be really anxious to be sure that the numbers reflect the wisdom here, because I think this is great.
Well, it's going to be a learning experience for sure, and a growth experience. So we're hoping it goes well. So,
Great, any other questions for Rick and Brett?
I'll listen back.
In that case, let us move on to the next item, which would be the Teachers Appreciation Week. Susie?
Me?
Yes.
I know Megan has the gifts ready. Am I correct? Now, is it just for teachers? Is it for admin? Is it for?
It's teacher appreciation, but we
Okay.
have enough to also give our admin.
So like at the elementary, we give one to both the principal and vice principal, both. Are we just gonna stick them in their boxes, or, I mean, it's going around to every classroom? So
When we did classified, we tried to go around and individually hand them out, just kind of so they knew how much we appreciated them, and it was kind of nice. I think we only missed one person in the whole district. They were just busy, we couldn't track them down, but
So you have a list like of all the teachers so we can check them out? When do we want to do it? Who do we
I
want
think
to help?
they're testing in the morning, right?
High school.
High schools and mass day testing, yes.
By the afternoon, things will be ready, doesn't mean you have to do it
Like
tomorrow.
tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday?
I think the sooner the better, if tomorrow works for you, but.
So we do Wednesday, does that work?
I could do Wednesday after 1, or
Wednesday,
Wednesday afternoon? So do we each want to take a building or?
Yeah, they'll take about 40 minutes that way, or 30, 40 minutes.
We could take the elementary, even though it's twice as.
I can breakfast for you. Okay. 30 minutes probably.
So we come over here like at 1 and pick up a big box or whatever and go over to the school.
And we'll go around, we'll have something kind of go around with you guys, Gene and stuff, and then we'll disperse out.
So Wednesday at 1?
Can you do that, Megan?
yes.
You want the middle school or the high school?
Doesn't matter.
This is.
We'll do whichever ones.
I don't have a preference.
Well, you two can fight that out.
You already took one.
Well,
I
let's give
said
you a
I'm
random
taking-
box.
Go to the
with
elementary
your-
school, you go back to your own stop.
Yeah,
Grant.
go back to elementary,
Yeah,
so.
well,
Even though half the teachers are new, and I don't know half of them.
It's a good way for you to get
Okay, Megan, we can figure it out.
I'll probably
Doesn't matter
be
to
a
me.
little bit
I-
late.
Doesn't matter to me either.
you'll pick a random box.
Teachers in both buildings and so on.
Okay, I can do the middle school. Since I don't know any teachers in any of those buildings.
That's not true, you're gonna recognize them all.
It's also, I was gonna say, it's also nurses appreciation. Did we
Oh,
decide?
on Wednesday.
Didn't know that, thanks for the heads up on
We
that.
are on that, and so.
Okay, I just, and it's also prison garden, that's how I remember. 'Cause Chelsea reminds me that she gets. So it's a busy week for people.
Chris Gardner.
But I did remember it was nurses, so I wanted to make sure we didn't forget. our nurses.
We are on that, so.
Okay, alrighty.
Okay, nothing else on that? Then we'll move on to the next item, which is the ESD contract.
Perfect. Here's the contract for basically the, we've been talking about the early learning, subcontracting that service through the ESD. And so here's just, and this is their standard contract. Matt Medea has had it written up that they've used with OCDC and that, and so it's pretty standard on that. Essentially, it just says that we are committing 4 years at that total, you can see it on page 3 and 4, them serving our students. And we're looking at our goal, Mark and I's goal, we talked about at least 50% of our kids coming into kindergarten will have this option. And you'll kind of see as what they're gonna do, like furniture supplies, saying, who is kind of priority to
So
go
if it's
in there.
50%, as I say, who gets priority?
And that's what we look at, because it's also, we do preschool promise as well, and so we kind of look at what we need. And the ESD is in charge of that, the school district can give input on it, but the ESD is in charge of that. And, but between this classroom, the preschool promise classroom, and the lead classroom, we go to serve at least 50 kids, which, I mean, we range between 90 and 100 in that class, and so we should start getting most of those kids served. And our goal is to build upon that and to bring that almost, it be available for every 4-year-old. So,
What do we currently pay? What's current cost to us?
this is something we don't offer.
So that
Yeah.
220,000 is coming out of
So the 220, what it does, it's for one teacher and then 2 IAs. And they work on training them, all of that, and so that's where that cost comes. food service will still supply food, we get reimbursement for that, and janitorial will still do as well. And so, so that's what that is really, it's just a staffing personnel. We'll do the curriculum, all of those things.
Where's that in the budget right now?
Crystal
She
just-
had Crystal.
Crystal has, we've written it in the budget, I forgot where, but, shoot, I can't remember.
Something you can-
But yeah,
But it's
Crystal-
in the stuff we're gonna start.
Yeah, it's already,
Okay.
yeah, it's already in the budget, and you'll see the balance budget tomorrow, and it is already in there.
Okay.
So, yep, and this is something we can definitely maintain for the 4 years, so.
And how do we advertise this to our eligible families?
So if you, so we're starting that now, if you see on the, there's 2 new banners on our fence out there saying, hey, come to preschool, right? It's kind of like preschool roundup, because we have kindergarten roundup, and so, that's what ESD is now starting to do, and getting it out there on all their social media, and just like, if you know any preschoolers, let us know, and, so that, we're already starting that process.
Okay, and we are getting it out to our Hispanic families
Yes.
also.
Well, that's in English and Spanish.
Yes, and we still have our migrant preschool currently. We know that model might change a little bit, but we want to offer it. That would be, for those families, we still have that, so.
We're gonna start with kids as young as 3.
They have to be
So
potty trained.
the LEAP classroom over there with the peer models, they do serve 3 and 4. Our goal is to, obviously, we want to get as many kids in as possible, so we want to have a full roster if we do have to go to 3, but that's one of them, they have to be potty trained and those things. But our goal is like 4 years old, going into preschool or kindergarten next year. So,
Why start at 3?
like I said, that's part of the LEAP classroom on the outside of town with our peer models, and sometimes we do lower that age because we need good peer models, and so like age kids as well for those students. So. Okay. But 4 years old is our goal, and that's gonna be our target. And unless something crazy happens, there won't be 3-year-olds in that classroom, and I don't foresee it. So,
These kids aren't bused though, are they?
not currently. We could look at doing something of that
No,
nature.
I was just curious.
Yeah. So our lead classroom, the one we have over there, we do provide busing for that. Yeah, we do provide busing for those kids, so. Any questions on that contract?
Do we have to vote on that, or are these,
Yes, Monday's meeting has to be voted on,
okay.
so you have time to kind of review that.
So Ryan, how are we going to have this if we get 90 to 100% kids?
We'll have to expand our options. And so, and if you see in the contract, that's something that the ESD right now, because we only have those other options, but we also, we're working with Gables and Grace to still have those spots here. And so there are other options in the town that we can do, that we can look at. And if we can find those kids and those parents with good options, like Mark just said, like even in Ontario, they can't give the spots away. And so if we can find those parents and those kids that are willing to do that, then I think we can be creative with ESD, that's what they do, to get those options for those kids. And if we need to expand it, which I hope, because we're getting a lot of interest, and we are gonna, the program is a curriculum-based, research-based program, and that's the Leap Triangle program, as you saw in there. It's not gonna be kids who are gonna come in, they won't be daycare like gathers. So that's common. So anyway, but yes. We are giving our 4-year-olds the best. And that's what we search for, and this is that option. With highly trained staff. So, yeah.
I wish they had stuff like this with my
Mine
kids.
too.
Oh, I know, yeah. And I had the benefit of 2 of my kids going through the LEAP classroom over there, so seeing the experience, the curriculum and those things, and seeing what the experiences our kids would get. So, my kids were kind of the trial kids, so getting messed up with mine. It's a great program, and that's why I wholeheartedly support it.
Okay, and is this something that needs to be moved on and approved at our
Yes.
regular meeting?
Yes, because the contract itself is 220.
Okay, so,
Yep.
but we can do it
Oh,
next
regular,
Monday.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else on that? Or, in that case, we'll move on to the NEA contract.
Exciting news with our NEA contract, we settled, and these are particulars of the contract. One, you probably already heard of the new salary schedule in there. And so I just want to give you guys a couple highlights before we run by the board meeting. I will start with just the salary schedule. As you can see, we moved from a 17-step to a 5-step or a 4-step. And, no, it should be 5, I apologize, 5-step. And you'll see is it was important for us to, as a group, is to raise that incoming teacher salary to attract new teachers here. And so we are one of the top in the county to do that. And also at the end, so all the way down to the right, the bottom of MA 45 is at 86, 87. And so also retaining our teachers and saying, you know, we give you the best paid here. Well, a highlight of this salary schedule that benefits our community as well is, so it used to be MA and BA plus, 45, and then go up from there. After MA, we took away that BA plus because we want our teachers to be highly trained, highly skilled teachers. And so if they would like to move across that pay scale, we go get an education and become better teachers, and our community is going to pay extremely well for that. I've heard a lot of teachers who are on BA 45 that are there, well, it just hasn't been worth the time, hasn't been worth money. We are making it worth them, and they're flooding in and saying. So, I mean, already next year we're going to see teachers that are better prepared, better trained for our students, and so, but also that goes into our rating account as well. So there's extra funds generated on that. So that's year 1. Year 2 is actually at a 0 freeze. So there's no increase in the salary schedule with that. And so there's initial investment here, getting everybody placed. And then 25, 26, it is a 0% increase on that. And then 26, 27, it's a 3%. So, but we did kind of put it up front, and this is something that Mrs. Rideau and myself have been working a while to make this money work, because we know how much you guys value our teaching staff, and not just teachers, but all the staff, and so, but this is reflected in there. And it was, we kind of caught them off guard because they said, here's what we want, and we said, actually, here's what we want to give, because we know the value of that, and we want to pay for good teachers and attract them. Our goal is Mississippi a destination district.
And we adopted it faster than.
Yep. I don't think they, we want to caucus really quick. I don't think the door even closed. Yep, we're good. But so that's just the salary schedule. We have also, as you can see, that there was a lot of wording in those things that we got approved in there. There wasn't a lot of changes to the contract. One of them that you'll see is their work day. And we actually, so what we put in there is 8 hours of professional for like open houses, supervision, carnivals, and those things that the teachers are going to be mandatory to go without being paid extra on top of. That's built in this contract. So you'll see that as well. And for like high school graduation is now going to be required for those high school teachers. And yes, and I mean, it's an important event. And so you'll see that we added that in there. And it was actually a very enjoyable negotiations, just because we all had the same goals. And it worked really, really well. So.
And we're still working on classified.
Yes, we are still working on classified, and
Any progress?
We are slowly making progress, right? Little engine. So,
Oh, and they can't meet Thursday, so we're meeting Friday at 9, at 10. They'd like to move it to 10.
so get going here. I'll get that changed. So, any questions on the NEA contract?
And that's something we have to vote on.
Yes.
What is the percentage salary increase over the last contract?
Depends, right? I mean, it's not by person, but if you can look, it's a little over 12% altogether, which is a phenomenal raise. And I say that because some teachers at a larger large percent of that, some teachers didn't, just by reorganizing the steps and where people are, that it varied for everybody, and I would, there are those teachers that didn't get as much as a bump, but they saw the value in it and approved it because they know, looking at the larger sets, right? And a couple teachers only got a couple of hours.
So from a budget perspective for the schools, does it cost us 12% more?
Yeah, and that's why I say that's a little over 12% more. And then you look at his insurance is in there, right? So increased salaries, that's PERS, all those things that Crystal has figured out. And so that's about where it is. So, and this is something we're extremely confident that we can maintain, especially at next year at a year zero. You will see an increase because teachers are going and getting their masters and doing it. So you will see a little increase in that. But this is absolutely something we can maintain. We feel very strongly about that. So there's this, the salary schedule itself all over the state, it is, Baker kind of led the way and other people have been doing it, and Vail as well. And you look at, they're saying, oh, there's no way they can maintain this. Baker is because of their virtual school. Ours, nothing to do with their virtual school. This is something that we can absolutely maintain and continue to grow on for years to come. So, yep.
And it does include the PERS.
Yep, everything's in there. And PLO and all those little things, everything is built in that we figure out, so.
Any questions? Right on that.
And you will see, we're already kind of seeing the benefits of that, as you can see, right? Our candidates are all of a sudden, right, that news is slowly getting out. We're working with Mount Enterprise to get some other things out on it, but we're starting to get candidates. They're hearing and they want to come here, and so we're saying not only, this is a great place for kids, for teachers, and this is a destination to students. I'll keep saying that because I believe it is.
Okay. In that case, we will move on to the next item, which is the high school bathroom remodel.
Perfect. And so I have this, it's going to take a little bit of imagination. I tried to edit it on the computer, didn't go so well. I tried to do it by hand with whiteout, didn't go so well. So I'm just going to give you the blueprint, you're going to just go on a ride with me. This is what the high school bathrooms look like, and mainly I am focused on the one right in front of Mr. Beck's Spanish room. And so that's the bathroom that we're talking about right now. So in the high school there are, in the building there are two bathrooms, right? One on each side of those hallways, and they mirror each other, boys and girls, so you'll kind of see this. So what I'm proposing is I want to give you guys 3 options for modifications to the bathroom to provide a more family-friendly facility, and that being, I look at myself, I have 4 girls, right? Every time I'm with my 4 girls, like going into a public restroom, it is almost impossible. And so I'm sitting there talking like, hey, you look really nice. Would you help me make sure that they survive? But actually, and this actually opens up the ability to be more family-friendly and give more options to people. And so here's what the bathroom looks like currently. And so I'll go through these 3 options, and if you have questions. So option 1 is what we do is we remove this first wall here on the bottom of the page, and we open it all the way up, and we use the whole thing as a family-friendly bathroom that has stalls that are from the floor to about 8 feet high. And there's no little crack in there. It is, secure for my daughters and things to go in there. But what it does is opens it up for supervision-wise. You take this wall in the middle down, so it is one open with just stalls. Yeah, it's family-friendly. It's 100% family-friendly. And so it would, the sinks would still stay the same. There would be some plumbing work with taking out urinals and putting a handicap bathroom in there. So that's option 1, is making it all the way there. Still the other option, if family friendly is not, what you're comfortable with, the other side will still have boys and girls bathrooms. Option 2 is we just take the boys' bathroom here and make it a family friendly bathroom. And so all we would do is, if you can see where the 4 urinals are there, we actually take those out and then put in, we need a handicap bathroom in there as well, and changing table for, like I said, as a dad, I'm like, what do I do, right? And so it is more acceptable having that in there, and then so we put in that as well, and so you only modify 1. Now we look at, the boys still have the option on the other side, plus they can use family friendly if they would like. It does limit that, but we know that the need, boys are a little faster in there, and there's not as much need in that. And so that's option 2. It is the less kind of intrusive of the options, and it gives that place. And so that would be option 2, and I'll tell you that is my preference, is just kind of doing that one modified. And then, so like I said, we still have 2 girls and 1 boy on that. Option 3 is do nothing. And we don't give an option for, like I said, a family-friendly option, which I'm a firm believer this is something we absolutely need in our community. And so. And handicap, there's no handicap place in there as well that we need. I look at like conferences when we do have, we go, like, it's not something we have. So.
Well, are there kids at the high school in wheelchairs right now?
Not currently, but
Years ago when we did, it was pretty hard to explain how they were supposed to use the bathroom.
yeah.
Back then, I don't know how.
What is the state mandating that we do?
Yeah, they're not mandating that we do. We do have to, obviously we're grandfathered in, but we do have to have some sort of facilities that are wheelchair accessible, handicap accessible. We kind of get away with that with staff. We can kind of go in the staff, or maybe it's just, but it's not a mandate. This is something that, looking at kind of our community need, we need something that opens it up for more of a family-friendly option.
So if we did 2, just release 4 year and also that would be kind of a
Yeah.
handicapped.
Yeah, and I talked to the contractor about it, kind of looking at it. It does, I mean, it is smaller than this, but you can make it one big one. And so we're kind of working on it, but it needs
Yeah,
to be
with the
something.
wheelchair, it needs to be bigger.
It does need to be bigger.
Well, if you put a changing table.
And there will be a changing table.
And I will tell you, I think it's mandatory, a family-friendly bathroom. I was at a rest area once, and a gentleman whose wife was in a wheelchair asked me if there was anyone in the women's side. I said, no. He said, well, I need to take my wife in. She's wheelchair bound. So I stood outside the door and stopped other women from going in. And when he brought her out, he took her over, parked her basically under a shade tree, and he went into the men's room. I stayed with her because I thought, that's terrible. You know, his wife is in a wheelchair and she's just sitting out here on the, just accessible to anyone who could knock her over or whatever. But this is one of the big reasons that I am really in favor of a family-friendly area with a handicapped access.
Does number 2 look good to you, Luke?
We're doing one side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at minimum that, we'd like to do that. That would provide, depends on how we configure at least 3 stall type areas, right? My brain,
Yep.
4 probably. Yeah. I know our access to the middle school with the family bathroom has been great for families and for kids that gives them a private spot.
So these stalls, I mean, floor to ceiling?
No, it's not gonna go clear ceiling. There will be space in there, just obviously, I mean, for monitoring and sound and those things, that's something that we're not gonna go full water closet. There will be a space up there so we can still hear and monitor that, so.
Currently, we haven't had that at the middle school, and it's been, the family bathrooms that are in, obviously above the, we've been at the middle school, right, obviously above the stairs, there's that one, there's a closed door, right? And so the same deal, there's one in the hallway and one in the hallway, they're all the way up too, so I mean, the reality of the world is, you obviously don't want cameras in that area, but there's a camera adjacent to each of those areas, like, you can go in and who went out, obviously like the one at the top of the stairs now, the vape detector, and just like the other bathrooms too. I mean, so I think the things that people are concerned about with family type bathrooms, I think we're all really familiar with them. You go into most gas stations now and they don't have a boy or girl on them. You can use either one of them, right? Whatever's available is available. So I think that's the opportunity to provide.
Ballpark, how much would number 2 cost to to do?
I don't know, they're still kind of working it up, and, because they, obviously, you think the pipes and everything will work, it'll be, it shouldn't be that much, it'll be definitely under temporary.
That's something we can look at.
Which question?
And the only one we're talking about is this one unit in the high school.
Yep, just this one unit in high school, and like I said, it is the one across, like, where it's been, Mr. Beck's classroom, so on that side.
This is just an information item.
Yes.
We go over
No, we're not, I mean, we're just, I want to do just kind of information right now, and, things kind of, I would like your guys' input on what you guys think would be kind of a really good option, but then when we really get down to it, and I can get your costs, then I can get all those things, I'd like to just present to you and say, this is what we'd like to do, so.
If it comes to be, what are you looking at potentially doing this?
This summer, yep,
having it ready for fall.
yep.
And then you're gonna like talk to the kids about what it's for,
Absolutely.
so they know what it is.
Yeah, absolutely, yep. And there's a part, as Luke says, most of the public places, I mean, that you go, they have a family friendly, so they're aware of it, and, just saying, this is what business is intended.
The difference being, most of the family-friendly ones are a completely separated, standalone bathroom. The obvious concern here for me at this point is boys and girls in high school using the bathroom together.
Yep.
You know, and all that may entail.
Yeah, there's no urinals, so if a girl
Is there any
walks
way to
in-
utilize this bathroom, the staff area?
Yeah, and the problem is you have to, I mean, looking at actual like monitoring that, like you have to go through that door, it's not open.
Could you make the door out this way, like in the hallway?
I mean, we could look at something like that, what I think you're doing is creating more of a private space that isn't as well monitored and, as that. And so that would be my concern, honestly, looking at that was something that was important for us, like big detectors, having a camera out there, those things to ensure that, as much as possible, the safety of our families. So.
I think the process is just what design components we're interested in, right? And so I think the idea, in theory, for me more than anything, is the idea that we're open to the suggestion of trying to develop a space, right, that meets our needs, that we currently don't have. There's not a space like that in high school, right? And I think the process of what are some concerns we have, right? Is that space actually a space that we can configure to make that happen, right? And figure out what components we want to avoid, right? And what components we want to make sure that are incorporated in, and make some cost decisions based upon that. There may be options that are easier to configure than what we thought about, right? Examples, maybe the spacing that we currently have is better utilized if we come in from another entrance. You never know, right, through the side, from the other direction, right? And so it may be possible that you configure it where you come in from the hallways on all of them, right? So that they're adjacent. Like, there's different options in terms of how you can present it, right? Maybe you did want them exactly like you said, I'd like to sink in the bathroom, right? If you look at our current bathrooms, they're not very big, but they have a sink in them, right? They have a sink and a toilet, right? So the complete function is not in there, and you're off to the races, right? And then you leave the area. So I think we just look at what design concerns we have, and then figure out what it costs to get the features that we want. We know what in our current configuration, we're not meeting the needs of our constituents.
Yep. That's what it's saying. And this is, we're looking kind of low impact, obviously not monetarily, they would be able to meet that need and saying, this may be like, this is where it is now, and we configure it again later and saying, Susie's saying, what if we do it out in the foyer, so it is actually, families don't have to go all the way around, and it is right there, that's something that we can absolutely look at in the future and say, we can modify it even more, so.
Have you had an architect actually look at that?
Yeah, he's doing it, I was like, I said, hey, can I have it by Monday? This was like 2 weeks ago, it was like, he laughed at me, he said, no. And so that's why you get my narrative on it. And so, yeah, but I will propose those.
Well, you can also run some of our thoughts by.
Yep. Which would be really good.
Yeah, I can't believe they've gotten away without a handicap bathroom all this time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a wider stall, there's one spot for the place on here. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's a wider stall, but it doesn't, I don't think it meets, yeah, but it doesn't meet the needs.
So I think of like maybe and some of the other kids that were in the wheelchair and that would be hard for them.
I think it was, when it was an issue before, it was both the stall and then the corners, just navigating the corners was an issue. I think that's about the time we took off the doors, so that we had the right amount of privacy and supervision. And those doors still exist, but they were decided to put back on, but yeah.
Even if an athlete or somebody's in crutches, it's hard to get into those little stalls. You know.
So, this was just a discussion item.
Yep, just a discussion item.
Okay, so if we have anything, concerns, we can take to Ryan.
Any
Or
great
suggestions.
suggestions?
Any other questions? We'll move on then to board vacancy. I will tell you, I tried to talk Jeremy into changing his mind, reconsidering being reappointed. That,
Alexa,
we need to announce our board vacancy at our next regular meeting.
on Monday.
And my preference would be that we take, excuse me, once we start taking applications, that we take applications through the end of June. That would give us like 5 to 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
And then we can move on, to review and make a decision in July. Any thoughts on that? Other than, if anyone else can talk to Jeremy, convince him to.
You're a good family member.
Yeah.
And there are some really good policies that we have outlined here that,
Yes.
that the board should review when going through that process. I mean, obviously, you've done it quite a few times, but it would be good for the board to just familiarize with those policies.
Yes, we do have policy and we should review that. I would recommend that we send a cover letter to anyone who applies, asking for, why they would like to be on the school board. Because you filled it out before, it's very generic.
Right.
But asking, why they would like to be on the school board, what concerns they have that they're looking at with our school district, how they can, help. I mean, the thing about appointing a member is it gives us a chance to make a decision on who we think would be a good fit, or what we need is a good fit.
That sounds good to me. And they'll advertise it on the school website and where else?
And the newspaper, I think, will advertise in the
Yes.
newspaper as well, for notification in there as well.
But, as I said, we'll make that official at our next regular board meeting. Anything else on that? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is the DEI.
DEI question, the diversity, equity, and inclusion staff member, and so I'm actually making another proposal. I don't, this position has been changed. So I'm proposing to change the title of the DEI staff position to be actually called Student Success and Community Outreach Coordinator. The proposed change aims to provide a better opportunity for success for that individual and our students in our community. And I think that the name of it actually aligns more closely with the values of our community. And, we know, given the underlying issues surrounding our current political climate is that this adjustment will help foster a more positive reception of this role and be able for them to accomplish the objectives that the board has for them. And so I'm proposing that we do change it to student success and community outreach coordinator. It's still licensed. If you can see by the job description, a lot of those pieces are still in there, both, I mean, with the Latinx and still teaching, you know, and so all of those are in there, but I do want to change that to ensure that that person has an opportunity for success.
And since we advertised it and had it open, have we got very many applications?
We have, I just checked today, I think there's 11 people in there, only, I think 4 of them that are qualified. And so what I'm going to do, if we're okay with changing the title of that position, I will reach out to those people and let them know that, hey, we're changing that. If you're still interested, that we can kind of move it over. And so that I don't want to lose those applicants in that process.
Okay, so you're going to reach out though to all 11?
Yeah, I can do all of them. I can call personally and just do that, so, yeah.
But only 4 like have college degrees? or
Yeah,
something?
that have the actual teaching degree, so.
Any comments from the board or
Like
figures?
Yeah, so what's the acronym gonna be?
SSCOC. So we're not gonna call that Student Success and Community Outreach Coordinator, so.
Success and outreach.
Success and Outreach, yep.
So was it a certified job now not certified? Is that what?
No, it's still certified.
Still certified?
It's still certified.
Because this, that's,
Yeah, we're gonna, I mean, we put that caveat on there, but it is still certified. We still would like them, I mean, part of it is to go and teach those classes, give the opportunities, you know, that we talked about with meeting with students at the 8th period. So they're still gonna be in charge of that.
I think this is a very good decision to make. It's more encompassing actually than just saying a DEI coordinator.
And so when are we looking at interviewing and hiring?
Our plan was this week, but kind of with the change and doing that, we would like to get it done sooner rather than later.
So they would start next year? or
Yes, they would start next year, yeah. I would actually start coordinating with that person because we know with Mr. Jackman's new position there, those, this person and Mr. Jackman are going to be working hand in hand for the student success. What that looks like is seeing if we can kind of buy some time this summer to start meeting with the board, meeting with me, meeting with admin. Exactly, and sending them, you know, to some places that really do some really good community outreach like Ontario does. And so, working with that person to see if we can buy some time to give them those experiences because it's time you're like, okay, here you go outreach. So we're going to try to support that person as much as possible.
So, and you would like to have this person up and running, fully trained by the end of August?
Yes. Yep. I would like to have them at a good place where we're hoping in August we have, well, it would probably be September, our first equity committee meeting, and that they would be there and a good contributing member of that. And so,
Do we have an office space for them?
so that's, yeah, Gina said she'd share her office, and so, no, I'm joking, no.
We're gonna take one of these walls.
Exactly, we'll take one of those, open it up, and actually, we'll just make a little stall in there, and then actually it doubles as a monitoring, and
There we go.
yeah, see?
Maybe you won't have a monitored bathroom.
Exactly, so,
Brian, sorry, what was the I? It was diversity, equity, and
Inclusion.
inclusion. I couldn't remember. Hence the need for different.
yeah,
I just wondered if they'd be,
meeting on Wednesday.
if they'd be in a specific building or over here or.
I would hopefully put them at the district office, and yeah, it is a district position, like I said, it is, they're gonna be a value to the board as an advisor for that as well, and just, they will be in all buildings working with various students, not only, you know, marginalized students, but also top students, and so they just need to be very mobile to
And have access, can they use the migrant car out there to visit parents? Only if they visit migrants.
We just want a good separation of that.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because if they're gonna have to, you know, talk to parents a lot, they're gonna need some kind of.
Yeah, and they would have to coordinate with our our PAC and our migrant employees, because they are kind of doing the same thing, right? Helping those students out, so. Good.
Any other questions?
So I will get that changed and posted so students.
Okay, then we will move on to our board scholarship.
We need to go into executive session.
For,
Are you guys just looking at how you're gonna rank them or and
No, I thought we
award it,
were
or are you
gonna-
gonna actually talk about?
Picking.
I don't think you can go in there talking about, you can't say any student names, and the executive session is appropriate for that, but
So
just
we
make
just
sure.
have to say candidate one.
Candidate one, candidate two, and so make sure you guys don't use student names when you're talking about the scholarships. I think it's, yeah, it says applicant 1, 2, 3, 4 on there ready for you, so just, I mean, it's just, help the students out.
Alrighty.
5,000 for a total number, right?
5,000 is our total.
Well, when I broke it up, I tried to think of, we could do 4 at 750 and 4 at 500. But then I went through and kind of made a list and I had like 6 that deserve 750. So I don't know how we want to do it.
Yeah, and that is something we need to decide. We also need to recognize that we have 8 applicants that we're looking at.
Tell them which 2 are out. I mean, just because they won't complete.
Yeah, 9 and 10 are out because they were not complete.
So we'll just be talking about all 3.
Sorry, yeah, I missed it on 9, I had 10 is not complete.
Yeah. Yeah.
I missed something on 9.
9, the original, application form was not completely filled out. And Megan did contact the individual, and when asked to have it resent, because apparently the formatting was just not correct. So, but,
It's too bad.
yes.
I know.
Yes, but you can see that they just started here and
So we have
Clipped off
8
half of that.
completed applications.
half of it, which is, but I did double check with Megan. Megan contacted those 9 and 10, and they did not resubmit or did not bring in the complete report.
Or we could give each of the 8 $625.
I
That's
like
just an
giving
option.
something extra to the higher GPA earners.
Well,
Just
that's-
because they put in that.
I know, I'm
little
just
extra.
saying. But, as I said, I wish they didn't have names, because some of them I know
Sure.
have really struggled and not come from good homes, and boy, I'd like to see them succeed.
Right, and, I mean, I did go through and I read them.
I mean, like, don't I just put
I
750
had
or
a really
500?
hard time, but I graded them.
What do you think, Megan? Give them all the same, give some more?
I mean, of the
8?
8, they're all hard workers.
Yeah, you
Yes.
know pretty well.
Before Maribel left, that was her recommendation, was to just
Give them all the same amount.
We could do that. I mean, I did have a couple of, I mean, they all had wonderful letters of recommendation. One of them had 3 letters of recommendation. They've all done,
A lot of
community
extracurricular-
surveys,
extracurricular.
A couple of them I thought had not really thought out what they wanted to do in life.
But you think about it, should 18-year-olds have to know what they want to do with the rest of their lives?
No, but I mean, some of
Yes.
them.
Did you know that you wanted to be an attorney at 18?
6th grade.
Oh, wow, I knew at 2nd grade that I wanted to be a teacher.
There you go.
I'm just saying, I'm
But
thinking
no,
of my
no,
one
it's not
daughter,
about
she
that.
had no clue.
Right.
But, I mean, a couple of them, like, one did not realize that the area that that individual wants to go into that the university that he or she wants to go to has that as a major. And they did not pick that, but they said, this is what I want to go into, but they picked a different area to major in. Another one, when that individual talked about the future career, had 2 sentences about it. And the rest was about other things, the extracurricular. I mean, I read through all of these.
And Crystal, we send it to the college, right? Not to
Yes.
them.
Goes
So
to the
when they're
colleges.
enrolled, and
Yeah.
all ready to go, we send it
Yeah,
to
I
them.
connect with them and get their colleges, and then their, I send a letter to the college with their names.
So it's not like we just give them cash and say,
No.
to apply it to your.
Nope, it goes to their colleges.
So,
And that was kind of weak or something that, we didn't really express that in this letter.
I would be very happy to just give them all and make them out.
If that's over our budget, we give them, wait. What did you wrong? Okay.
625 apiece, if there's 8 of them, that's 5,000. And you have that in the budget.
And do we opposed to that? I know some of them have worked harder and worked harder on the applications than others, but I think some of them did it to the best of their ability without any help. I think some of them, their parents looked at it and helped them out. Some of them probably did it all on their own.
And I'll be honest, I also went through their transcripts. And some of them, I understand what you mean about they're not taking really full blows. And the other thing I'll be honest about is I think that so many 4-point students,
Why do we have so many valedictorians this year, Mr. Chapman?
Are pretty outstanding.
Is it because the kids are outstanding, or were the teachers just
Or is
giving
there
these
grade?
We don't
grades?
weight our grades.
They actually are pretty outstanding kids.
We don't weight our grades.
Not gonna be angry.
I mean, we're just asking a question.
Because that's pretty unusual to have, how many do we have?
Yeah, there's 10.
I mean, it's not pretty unusual.
But when I started going down through that list, and I'm thinking, these are pretty outstanding kids. They are pretty amazing.
It's the year they were born. Some years kids are just outstanding.
Well, and I-
Other years they're just
and I
great
told you
athletes and
2.9
not
is
great
10 from the bottom.
thinkers.
Excuse me?
A 2.9 GPA is 10 from the bottom, which is really high, just so you know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
So,
Not to look individually through them, but when I look through them, because yeah, I'm like, do I try to separate them out? Do we try to make it competitive rather than based on standard? No, I went through and they were all pretty, they were amazing and deserving, and so.
And how many salutatorians do you have?
It's just one, it's, the way it's worded, it's just the next highest GPA. I'm not going, I was trying to go through the whole list in my brain, and I don't remember all the names, but Embry's on there, and Austin Baker's on there, and, anyway, I'd have to look at the names. They're all incredible. And then you got Spencer Romans, who missed it, both valedictorian and salutatorian. He's amazing.
What did you get, 1 B plus?
He got 1 B plus.
Oh.
And he's very mature about it, he's okay with it. Yeah, I'd have to look through the names again, but my overall emotional reaction was, man, this is impressive.
And we need to give these out at the awards banquet that you guys had.
We would love to have you take her to do that.
Just don't let me hold the papers this year. Remember last year, I dropped them all into the sea and couldn't find them all?
oh, I remember that.
I didn't go last year, I went the year before.
No, I will be at the awards, hopefully.
Did they ever put a handrail on the stairs going up to the stage?
They did do
It's
something.
loose, I need it fixed.
Because I was like, I can't walk up the stairs.
I think they put a handrail on it.
There's a handrail on both sides, but the one side is loose, I've got to get that fixed before, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, because that, it was dangerous.
Well, and then
Even
what's
more
his
now
name?
'cause
The
you're bidding on
athletic
it
director,
with
what's his
kids.
name? The athletic director?
Oh, Josh.
Josh goes, I'll be there, I'll help you up the stairs, and then he went to bed. Hello.
So,
I propose that we give Ollie $625.
okay, and that is within,
That's $5,000.
Are we gonna get a flood of applicants if we just give the same thing to everybody?
yeah, and I had
every
wondered that
year?
too.
Well, I
Every
mean,
year we've done something completely different,
Yeah.
they really don't know.
last year we gave some 1,000 ones and some 500 ones.
I mean, we do weird stuff every year,
Well,
right?
it just depends on the quality and quantity.
Yes, yes.
I know Crystal's like,
Yes.
please stop
It's
being
never the
weird.
same.
Can we give our valedictorians an extra $66? I'm just doing the math here.
Well, yeah, because I mean, when you look at this, it's your,
It's a minimum amount, and it kind of acknowledges.
So you're saying give them 600 and,
$650, and then the others would be $583.33.
oh, God.
Crystal
Split
really
that
likes
up however you want.
Well, there were, I counted 6 of these, am I correct? There are 6 that have 4.0s in this.
I need three.
And 2 that had,
Well, there was,
2 that had lesser GPAs.
there was 3 that had lesser GPAs.
2, 3 should have lower.
Yeah,
I
3
think so.
had lesser.
5 and
Yeah.
3.
A 3.9.
Yeah, 5 and 3.
So how do we do that? Math-wise, come on, you guys, where's Jeremy? He was our math guy.
So we have
Crystal?
5.
But
Well, we had 5 that had
Thing is,
4.0s.
sometimes
So if we
about
give them a
4.0
little bit
kids,
more,
so-
Okay.
and 3 that had lesser.
It's not the older on classes, so they don't.
Is it worth going through the process for it? That's my.
Well,
my
that's
task.
what I get on some of I took all honors
Yes, I still do this.
so
What do you say, Megan? All the same, or you give the valedictorians more?
I have my own bias, so
I know.
I think all the same personally, but that's just because I,
Yeah, looking at the one that you and I raised, I'm trying to figure out if I raised it.
I would say give them all the same.
this year we'll do all the same.
Yeah,
Next year, we could do something different.
it's okay.
Starts.
Candidate 3, I know that person's GPA is low, but boy, I'd like to see that person be successful. I know you would too, right?
We're talking about number 3,
Yeah.
and his letter isn't even for college now.
Yeah, and
Where's
you're right,
the-
he isn't, that's the one that, you know, that's a social work thing. and-
God, it's a good football program.
Right.
Looks fun. I'm gonna check my
Well, that makes my heart happy. He was one of my favorites. This is my last class to graduate.
Oh, he was.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
He was very for a long time.
And the Mario Ramirez came up to me, he goes, I'm gonna graduate and give you my diploma. I love you.
And that's just sometimes we thought we had one to do.
Should we vote? Can we give them all the same
So we give them all the same?
this year?
I think we should, because some of these ones that were real close, they're super hard workers too.
Does anybody object to that? Give objecting. Okay, do we need to vote or we just do it?
Do we vote at the meeting or?
No. And that's what Maribel suggested, and Donnie's not here, so.
And I'm sure he's.
And he would probably excuse himself
And
since
we
his
can
daughter
just
was
take a consensus on this one.
Yes, we can.
like 5 of us with Maribel, because that's what she.
Okay.
Cousin. Not Donna.
With, for me, it is fine if
It's Donnie's daughter.
all these individuals seem.
We could break it down. I have a breakout if you want to think about this. You
We were
could,
so close.
I know, but I just want to be sure. You could award the top
hire
Six.
five,
Five.
$700
Six is
each,
fine, so.
and then the other three could get $500.
And the other one get what? The
So
first five?
$700 and $500.
I say give them all the same issue.
I appreciate the effort though.
I was
really
really
do.
trying.
Okay, we vote?
And that would make sense.
Budget.
I think it's my TV show tonight, so.
We're not taking a vote, we're taking a consensus, and consensus is all the same.
And Maribel, that's what she.
Our vote's all the same.
Whatever. We're not
You can all
voting the
vote it anyway,
consensus
so it doesn't
is-
matter.
That's what,
Alrighty,
Megan?
I think all the same.
all right.
This is a perfect example of math problem solving with the state test.
Okay, so, no, so, the consensus is.
Yes, John, you want?
Yes.
You get that, Crystal, we're gonna give them each decision.
Sounds good, thank you.
And when is the associate?
May 15th.
Okay, with that, oh, I did want to ask one other question. You know, some of these transcripts are not signed. Is that because there was such a rush that Holly didn't have a chance to sign them? or-
They're usually not official. Did you ask for official transcripts?
Well, it's, I mean, you know, you would expect it to be an official, but, I mean, I noticed that several of them were not signed. I can tell you how many.
Yeah, if they ask her, she gets to it. But if it doesn't specifically ask for an official transcript, then they just get a working copy.
So,
We can put that in there next time.
yeah, make sure that you.
And I think we should white out the names. It's so hard when you know.
Well, except when you go to read the letter of recommendation, it has your name on it.
I mean, I would have to go through and block out a lot of
So-
items.
Just hard.
I mean, I will, but I'm just saying it's not as easy as
Get
just.
read that.
Curious now, I wanna see.
You just use Adobe Acrobat.
I know, and I love it, I'm learning.
Redacting is
I had
crazy
some of
with
them
it.
as their teacher and stuff, I would want to say, oh, this
Okay.
one works so
I
hard.
do it all the time.
Even though his grades aren't good.
All right, folks, is there anything else we need to discuss in this meeting?
Nope.
Okay, if there's nothing else to discuss in this meeting, someone call for this meeting is adjourned.